just had an amazing coffee here, caffeine. If you ever visit Oxford Street in London, go check it out. It's just a couple of streets back. I had a flat white and it was absolutely lovely. So let's talk about watches. So whenever anyone posts a video about Rolex, just scroll down into the comments and you'll see people moaning about how Rolex is overhyped, they're overpriced, they're a rip-off, you're just paying for a name. It's always the same, people bitching about Rolex. Now I get it because they are the king of watches. It's like Apple being the king of technology. They're not the most innovative, but they're the most powerful. People like bashing the guys at the top. I get it. Is Rolex actually worth it? The short answer is no one's wrong. If you're in the camp that thinks Rolex is a rip-off, then you're right. If you're in the camp that thinks Rolex is worth it, then you're also right. We all have an idea of what we want in a watch, and we all have an idea of the price we're willing to pay to get that. It's all an opinion. It doesn't really matter. We can't be wrong. But share my thoughts on this subject.
First things first, let's get the dumb shit out of the way. If you just want an instrument that tells you the time, then use your phone. It's free. Let's talk about Rolex as a brand. I think this section is quite a small section to talk about as well, despite the fact I think it's the most powerful section. Rolex as a brand, you either feel a connection strong enough to the brand that you're willing to pay the price to have a connection to that, or you don't feel a strong enough connection to the brand and you're not willing to pay the price. It's as simple as that. In nearly every aspect of life, we get sucked up in marketing in so many different ways, whether it's food, clothing, film, music, lifestyle, and we pay a price to fit whatever connection we want with those things. So I kind of feel that saying that Rolex as a brand is overpriced, or you're just paying for a brand, again, it's a whole opinion thing, and it's a bullshit argument. There's nothing there. Spending £4 on a coffee from Starbucks, that's overpriced. But overall, I feel like comments about branding are pretty much pointless, because it is all completely opinionated. Rolex is a very, very powerful brand, and of course you have to pay the price to own a product from such a company. For me, I really like the mix of prestige of Rolex along with the sense of adventure, and I feel a connection to that. I like that. So then we need to look at the design of the watches. And once again, this is subjective, but there are very strong arguments behind the fact that Rolex have created the most iconic watch ever. The Rolex Submariner, the poster boy Rolex, it's probably the most influential watch out there. And it's not just a Submariner. They've got the Daytona, they've got the Datejust, they've got the Day-Date. So many of their designs have become icons.
When I caught up with Auric, the chairman of Oris, he mentioned Rolex. I actually mentioned Rolex first. And I was talking to him about the great price to amount of watch ratio that Oris has. I think you get a lot of watch for your money with Oris. Now, as a way of somewhat humouring Auric, I mentioned Rolex and how Rolex are the opposite. You don't get so much watch for your money. He very passionately disagreed with me. He said the amount of development work that goes into developing a Rolex, the amount of work that goes into manufacturing a Rolex, means that actually the outcome is you do get a lot of watch for your money.
I was talking to a watchmaker last night at an event. He made watches for Rolex. He's worked for lots of high-end brands within the region of Rolex. And I asked him this question: is Rolex worth it? And similar to Ulrich, he got very, very serious, and his body language changed and his facial expression changed, as if he had something serious to tell me, as if you need to listen because what I'm about to say is going to be some real shit. And he said they're absolutely worth it. They don't innovate, but what they create is the best. This is what he said. He made watches for Rolex, and he was adamant that their quality control, their production line, their production processes, their attention to detail is just second to none. And ultimately, you can't get a bad Rolex. This is what he said. There just isn't a bad Rolex out there. If it's not perfect, it doesn't leave the factory. It's really interesting that both this chap and Ulrich's body language changed to the same stance, the same manner, and that their message was exactly the same. That they had some serious insider knowledge and that this was a subject that they felt really passionately about. It was very interesting that it was the same. Now would be a good time to discuss the movements. Problem is, I do not know enough about horology to pass judgment on Rolex's innovation or lack thereof, or their results, their accuracy. I don't know enough about that stuff to comment. All I'm going to say is I have enough trust in the brand Rolex to believe that what they do is good, and that's it. Now, Rolex get a lot of bashing because of the kind of status that they have, that they're a rich man's watch. And I don't think they are a rich man. They're expensive watches. I'm not going to deny that. I think anything above 100 quid's expensive. So for me, a Rolex is expensive. But they aren't high horology, yet they're doing everything in-house. They aren't FP Journe, they aren't Lange, they aren't Patek, but they're still doing everything in-house, and it is still at a relatively decent price. Imagine, I haven't got a clue what it could be, but I can imagine the cost is huge to develop and manufacture your own movement compared to buying a movement off the shelf and adjusting it.
Now, IWC, certainly with their lower end models, they're pretty much a design brand. They're not, although they adjust their movements, they're designing the case, the dial, not the movement. They've taken a movement off the shelf. For example, they've taken the ETA 2892, they've adjusted it so it's a bit more accurate. However, it's still an item that's taken off the shelf. It isn't an original item. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these ETA movements. They are fantastic movements. ETA have been around for a very, very long time. They've had a lot of time to refine, get things right, and they have done. They're very accurate movements, and there's nothing wrong with them. All this is about is pulling things into perspective and giving credit where credit is due. So guys, they are my thoughts on the idea of whether Rolex is worth it or not. I'm a fanboy of Rolex, I can't help it, and I'm quite open about that. Certainly a fan of their pre-ceramic stuff, but regardless, I still support what they do. I know I bitch about their stuff. I've completely bought into the idea of Rolex as a brand, the lifestyle that they sell, the kind of luxury tool stuff that they do. I'm caught up in that hype, and I admit that. As always, do drop your ideas in the comments below. I love to hear what you guys think about this. I don't know, there's going to be a lot of bitching about it. They are the most important watch brand around. It's whether you like it or not, they're the most powerful. They've obviously found the perfect ratio between marketing, product quality, and branding. Guys, subscribe to the channel down below. Check me on Instagram at BarkandJack. Check me out on Facebook /BarkandJack. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.